Hello, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Be Agile series related to AI integration and also where humans can meet artificial intelligence. And today I am extremely excited to host a presentation from Dr. Dimitris Antoniadis. To be honest, I've procrastinated quite a while on this because I've read the first article, I believe, around like 7 to 8 months ago, and I was excited, but then we had some rebranding and rebuilding of Be Agile. So now finally we are back to our hostings, to our webinars. So I've been excited to join Dr. Dimitris and invite again to talk about rewiring, project delivery, blockchain, artificial intelligence, other technologies all together in the future of project delivery in the fourth industrial revolution era. So I won't take any more time and just pass the ball to Dr. Dimitris, and please enlighten us.
Great. Thank you, Ayana. Thank you very much, first of all, for the invitation. Yes, the topic is very interesting, and I'm still learning, although I'm very mature age. Still learning about what is happening around technology, especially it's interesting times for anyone in project delivery, the project manager, project controller, commercial, risk management, any discipline around delivering a project is going through some interesting times. And I have, in addition to case studies around blockchain, bots, some perspective around what I did with my previous employer setting it up for AI. We're going to talk about a number of things, but first of all, let me introduce myself. Dimitris Antoniadis. I got more than 35 years experience in program and project management. I'm currently a consultant working for myself and a senior lecturer at the partnership between the University of West London and London Metropolitan College. I set up the apprenticeship project control degree for the university, and now I'm lecturing half my month, and the other half is as a consultant. So I wrote a book about demystifying project control about 7 years ago now, called Demystifying Project Control, because I was really fed up with what we are doing in project control. And then through my PhD, I wrote a number of other chapters and articles on complexity in project management, leadership, and other things. I haven't been an academic. It's only the last 3-4 years that I've decided to devote half of my time on lecturing, because in the past I worked for a number of organizations, from BAA, which was the Airports Authority now, Southern Water, Watt Thames, Balfour Beatty, Brown and Root, so construction, consultancy. And before I left, 6 years ago, I was with UK Power Networks, which is a distribution power network. So all my studies, that was with various roles, from program manager to head of PMO, project manager, head of project controls, everything in the last 35 years. So, but I said at the beginning, I wasn't an academic because all my studies I've done them part-time. I've done them mechanical engineering, and I was working in the evenings, a part-time project management MSc, and a part-time PhD. So, and that's because I was always reading and I was always writing thoughts about what is happening. And then I decided also to follow that academically and get some qualifications that way. So that's a bit about me. In terms of today and what we're gonna present is what is the status of the industry, the project management industry. Where are we now? What are the expected challenges? And then going to the technologies. What are the technologies available for project delivery, bots, blockchain, examples, I'm going to get there. What is artificial intelligence? And then we're going to talk about more in depth about project delivery, project control, and AI. And as I was going along, I was always changing the slides because there's so many things that are happening, right? I mean, you will see a slide where I'll try to link into a case study from NPlan, because the field is changing so rapidly. I'd say weekly changes are happening. And that is where we are. But if I start with the challenges, which is from the work that I did for my PhD, the industry, and these three graphs are from interviews I've done, surveys, and case studies. Case studies were around how projects performed, or the drop up actually in performance due to complexity. But I'll come back to that in a minute. So what the current status, and that's from feedback from practitioners, from site managers to directors, is that they believe that the environment is much friendlier, but is more dynamic and complex. Now, let alone, and that was 2009, 2007, between 2007 and 2009, so 16 years ago. So when I never sort of envisaged that I'll be talking about this in an AI current environment, but you can imagine that what AI and the technology is doing in terms of making the prevailing conditions on a project more dynamic and more complex, because things are changing much more rapidly. In terms of what the practitioners thought about what is the contribution of project management and their sub-processes for the success to the quality of project management, 78% of them said that is the management style. So instead of focusing, as you will see in the other, on selecting team members, structuring the team, monitoring and control, resource management, right? Instead of focusing on the hard processes, as we call them, right? They said that the leader's management style is more important for the successful delivery of projects, which was a surprise. But as also a surprise was that they classed as second one, the monitoring and control. Eventually, this study led me to deliver my PhD on complexity around the process of selecting team members, which we don't do, structured teams, which again we don't do, and obviously the attribute of management style. So, but then after that, after my PhD, I started looking into how monitoring and control then affects performance. And that, which is the case study, it was, there were actually 5 case studies that I carried out to look at how complexity affects performance. 2 were in design, 2 were in construction, which you see here, and 1 was in commissioning, because I wanted to see the whole period of the project life cycle. So as you can see, I mean, similar levels of drop in performance in all 3 areas. And in this particular case, for the construction phase, the average drop of performance due to complexity was about 50%. I'm not going to expand anymore, and I wrote a number of articles around how complexity and the interfaces affect the performance of projects. But another factor that affects now what we're doing is the challenges that we face due to changes in technology. And later on, there's a slide that I'll emphasize much more the interfaces and therefore the increasing complexity. And one point that I wanted to make in terms of what are the generic challenges is that in January 18, so 7 years ago, the World Economic Forum announced the birth of the 4th Industrial Revolution, which is part of the title today. And they define it as the age of rapid, continuous, and momentous technological changes. So the potential of disruption is everywhere. Now, at that particular point in time, very few companies were working around AI. So AI started early 2019. And this is when APM, which is the Association for Project Management, the body of project management professionals in UK, wrote this report projecting the future and looking at the effect of AI in projects and project management, right? They established through survey, right, that AI could add as much as £654 billion to the UK economy by 2035. So in another 10 years, we're expecting that. I think these numbers, probably have changed a lot more than what it was 6 years ago. The interesting point is about 35% of current UK jobs could be at high risk of disruption from automation. Now, reading that report in more detail, they're saying that AI will help the project managers and delivery people. And this is what I'm going to emphasize later on. But 6 years ago, right, the APM, through Projecting the Future, made these announcements, right? And 1 year before that, we have now the World Economic Forum saying we are in the fourth industrial revolution. So we have rapid, continuous, momentous technological changes. And we've seen these since 2023 with, what is happening with OpenAI, ChatGPT, Gemini, and all the other tools that are coming up. So these are challenges that we are facing as project managers and project practitioners, let's call it like that. And therefore, we need to understand them and master these technologies. And as a listing I brought up, and I'm using this for the, we have module 16 in the project control degree, which is data, information management, and artificial intelligence. It's the last module that the students are doing, and then they're going for the dissertation. And I'm giving them an indication of what is happening in terms of technologies around us, around projects, from BIM, building information modeling, 3D printing. We have bridges and houses being built with 3D printing. Therefore, a computer is following a schedule, right? And a drawing. Drones to have monitoring of progress. Virtual and augmented reality, helping with health and safety training, helping with the client looking at the drawing and understanding which way things are going. Combined with BIM, they give a massive advantage to, what we're doing in terms of delivering projects. I put Bitcoin here and Britcoin because there was a movement, even if it started when I was doing my PhD back in 2005 to 2009, that academics were saying it'd be good using Bitcoin technology to create the project bank using, obviously, Bitcoin. Well, they called it Bitcoin, but using Bitcoin technology. And we will see how the next few slides, a couple of examples, one on bots, implementation of bots, and the second one is a proof of concept that we've done in terms of implementing technology in project management. And then the rest of the slides, as you see here, different color, we talk about AI and machine learning. So all this, about 15 new technologies around us, smart contract, another thing that speeds up the commercial side. And things are happening fast and are developing fast. Then it's up to us to integrate them. And picking up with my first case study, that is what we called, I worked with a company called Novacept to develop for a company in the Middle East, a persona-based assistant. So that was a bot-based technology where it allowed their project managers, project practitioners, PMO, project control, etc., right, to log into through the phone, actually the mobile application and the laptop, and access either their P6 schedule, to add comments, to work with risks and add or change risks. The only thing I didn't allow with that was actually not allowing to enter progress. So I thought that it would be inappropriate to have someone over with a mobile, massive kilometers away from the site, entering percent progress in the schedule, because that should be a function that is happening on site, working with the people, checking what is happening, and then putting forward in the system the percent progress. Other things that the bot could do, or the assistant, was find documents. So searching through all the contracts for the particular project and find which documents are outstanding, what is happening, what are the actions, change control. So it was a very interesting application that was rolled out, and at that particular point in time was very successful. I don't know what happened since then, because some years have gone on by and AI has come in with agents, and we're going to see what agentic AI means later on. So that's a bot application. Then looking at the case study for blockchain, it was myself and a few others all working for our employers. I was working for UK Power Network. We had a person from SAP. We had a person from two people actually from we have a massive program of works here called HS2, the two PMO managers. We had contractors, directors, architects, IT. So altogether, there was a brilliant guy that brought us together and says, we need to see what blockchain can do for project management. And starting from the theory, because back in 2017, to be honest, I hadn't delved into what is blockchain. I knew I could hear about Bitcoin, but I didn't know much. So we started with the basics, explaining to everyone in the workshop that we were holding every month, what is blockchain? So we had, and just for the benefit of people present, blockchain is, we have individual blocks that contain data, important thing for projects, that are time and date stamped, placing them in a sequence. So cryptography then ensures that the blocks or data cannot be copied or other data be inserted and break the history of chain. So what we had was that we have a continuation. We know we have clarity, we have transparency between what is happening with the data. So blocks have got their own unique signature. So we had 124 characters. We could see that the IT guys were telling us. So what we had then is that each block on the chain validates independently every other block that follows, or every other block that is preceding it. So, and that's what basically is what is blockchain. And basically is used by Bitcoin because of its transparency, full security that it has, and obviously it gives a full history of the data users and who is working on it, which is critical really on the project side. So having established what we're doing and how we're going to do it, we then looked at setting up a proof of concept, picked up a project control process like placing orders. And from the architect, we started with the architect releasing the drawing for the panel to the client organization, who receives and approves, so stamps, right? And you can imagine all this drawing is at the drawing number was the drawing was considered as a piece of data, stamped, etc., that will be approved by the client organization, who then, and you see here a cycle, raises orders for the joint venture that was leading the program to the contractors, the two contractors that were responsible for raising the panel, to then raise an order, one of them to raise an order, place an order for the manufacturer, the steel manufacturer, who then manufactures the panel and instructs the haulier to deliver the panel back. Then we had RFI technology accepting the delivery, and we had validation of data. So that was the flow of the proof of concept purchase order, and we considered then the payment flow backwards, yeah, with all the steps and approvals for the payment to be made. But for the exercise that was presented to the board of the organization, the client organization, we only used the placement of order as a project management, project control process. So you can see here what now the key business values that are coming. These are the parties that I mentioned earlier on. We had transparency and trust, leading reduced litigation. We had prompt payments, because as soon as the placement of order was received back, then immediately it could be paid. We were de-risking the program in terms of knowing when the panel will arrive. Non-disruptive open environment. We provided data points for environment goals and the circular economy, and ultimately leading to improved productivity. So we were integrating the number of processes, yeah, that was happening between the different organizations with the relevant approvals and everything else. And then what we presented to the board were the business value and the actual benefits, which, as you can see here, we had established with the client's PMO people, that it was about 2 to 4% tangible benefit on construction project costs, simply following one process, the placement of order. Yeah, and we had identified, what the benefit for the client. You can see where the blue bar is here. Yeah, and that is the article actually that you see, which is here, that Aina sent out in the LinkedIn. And thanks for that, Aina. It's free, and it describes exactly what was the proof of concept exercise that we did. So these were 2 case studies, one on bots and the technology as it was then, and that was the second one was using blockchain for project control and speeding up. I mean, you can see speeding up and achieving benefits, even the client accepting that it would achieve benefits of 2 to 4%. It's a massive sort of indication of the benefit of blockchain. Going now into what is AI, and I am not going to stand much on the terminology. I mean, everybody by now we know that artificial intelligence. It refers to the simulation of human intelligence, processes by machines, and particularly computer systems. So it is involving algorithms, software, and systems which enable computers to perform tasks, yeah, that are typically requiring human intelligence, right? And what they're doing is they mimic cognitive functions. So, but that's the generic sort of description, but I wanted to bring in an article written by Professor Brooks of Warwick University in the APM research body. And they started, and that was back in 2020, so almost 5 years ago, but started talking from then, right, about intelligent agents, that they are autonomous, non-human entities, right, that take in information from the environment and act upon it. And we'll see later on another article which was published, I think it was last week, in the projectmanagement.com journal, internet journal. How we're going now into an agentic AI. But Professor Brooks and the other authors, right, had started picking that from these early days, 5 years ago, and have a lot of now development by organizations is going in that direction. So more on, I'd say, project management side, project delivery side, is going in that direction into closed environments where the human in the loop, right, which is a necessity, is happening from software tools, AI software tools that are internal to the organization. But I'll talk a bit more about it further down. So in the project context, as Professor Brooks is saying, some people have speculated that an intelligent agent could enhance or change the role and status of many project professionals. And this is what I wanted to highlight, right? That 5 years ago, it was picked up that there will be changes. I mean, APM identified with a report in August 19. That article followed on saying things that are happening on the AI side, the agentic side, will be changing our roles. And this is why we need to be aware of what is happening in terms of AI and the technology that makes the changes. Going into the basics, and that's basically for information, but we need to, I thought I needed to touch to see what is the relationship between AI and machine learning, neural networks, and deep learning. And we see all we see as individuals is that sphere, the gray sphere of artificial intelligence with large language models. Yes, but in the depth of the applications, right, the software applications, we have what is called deep learning with a number of different neural network structures, right, that perform their own bits and pieces to give us the output that when we go into ChatGPT and check something, or Gemini and check something, so there are different approaches. And this is what a number now of more project delivery AI working organizations, right, started to focus on. And we're going to see some examples further down. But basically, the theory, which I'll link it further down to some thinking that I was doing back in 2013, is the theory of neural networks. And how do we train them to understand what they're reading and then give us an output? And that's what you see here. Inputs, at a detail level, flowing on to the output, after having been trained on whatever we're asking them to be trained. So these are the different technologies that are applied. Deep learning with neural networks and the forward, then machine learning, and then artificial intelligence. So a book that I would recommend to all people, if you haven't read it, is from a fellow Canadian, Paul Boudreau. He wrote the book, How the PMO Can Use Artificial Intelligence to Improve the Bottom Line. And Paul has said that we need to deal with data, right? And the way we've got to deal with data is to identify what data we require, structure the data, which is fundamental for us in project delivery, clean the data, because there are always human errors, or things that we need to clarify if they're required or not, enrich the data if necessary, then validate the usefulness, and then make the data available and document the analysis so that the machine learning process can start. The problem that we have is that the current tools, because the generic current tools that like ChatGPT and more non-specific project delivery AI tools, is that they hallucinate. And an example I have, and again, is an article that I wrote. I'll go back to the article. That's the article I wrote last year, and the one that you mentioned, Aina, it was published in the Project World Journal, a critique on AI tools in critical path analysis. So what I've found out, that's from a PMI presentation about how ChatGPT can help us do things. And I was preparing my notes for the lectures for the module 16 I mentioned earlier on. I thought, wow, the PMI has done that. I can use this slide to present it to students. And all of a sudden I'm thinking, okay, all right, I'll show them what it does with critical path. And I'm looking at that and I'm reading what they're saying. And he says that in this 5-activity network, that's ChatGPT, there is a float of 7 days in the last activity. So I thought, hold on, am I forgetting my critical path analysis or am I going mad here? So I started checking everything else. And you can see in the arrows, discuss. You can read in the paper, but all these were errors that appeared from ChatGPT's critical path analysis. And I thought, hold on. And if you read that PMI article, I don't know if they revised it since last June, it says that the PMI suggests that there is a human in the loop, always a human in the loop. And I thought, hold on a second. You're preparing a presentation for people to tell them about AI, and there is no human in the loop to check this. That AI, ChatGPT is hallucinating. Now, at that point in time, last June again, I asked them, guys that I know in Project Control Academy that I know in the state, Texas, and I said, Cameron and there was another guy, can you check, am I going mad here? So they've done their checking with other tools, and the other tools were also wrong. At the same time, I mean, this article, Dr. Kenneth Smith read it last February, and he wrote again on the Project Management World Journal a reply to me, but he was sort of confirming that things are still not right, which means we have to be extremely careful. And if I give you a recent case studies I had with 2 or 3 of my students, because we are restricting the use of AI in the university. We're saying you've got to be careful. You can use Grammarly, you can use Copilot to help your English, but you cannot use it to create your report, because we're asking them for reports. There was a particular student. He was in an interesting situation, and he copied from ChatGPT everything, and everything was a hallucination. Even he had me as writing a book on costing in construction in 2018, and obviously I didn't write that book. So that's an indication that even though things are happening and improving out there, AI cannot be fully trusted. We need to be in that point where we're going to check what is happening. We're going to check what we are told, which is why I'm raising in the article that it was on the PM World Journal last June. But also I'm following Professor Mitchell, Melanie Mitchell from the Santa Fe Institute. And she's following very closely for the last 3 or 4 more than that years. She was a brilliant professor in complexity, and then now is working on AI. So she tested LLM tools on a basic reasoning question, which says, in blue, you can see here, Julia has 2 sisters and 1 brother. How many sisters does her brother Martin have? Simple question for us that can reason. But you can see in dark red, the ChatGPT responses, Gemini AI, Pro, Perplexity, and everything. The answers were ridiculously wrong. Right? So Julia has 2 sisters and 1 brother, Martin. Since all disciplines serve the same family, Martin also has the same 2 sisters as Julia. Not answering the question. Yeah. So that's one warning in terms of what we're doing with the tools that we're using. Yeah. And then you see the tools that Professor Mitchell used. But then she turned into a new tool that has been developed by OpenAI, and it has reasoning. And they're now using LRMs, large reasoning models. Ask the same question, and these were, you can see again in dark red, the answer that the tool gave, which is absolutely correct. But there is a but here, and that's why the title, but expensive. The license for that, accessing that tool, is $200 a month. So I don't think many of us project practitioners or companies could have the amount of data, but that shows that things are changing. And what we got to understand is that I mean, I don't know who first mentioned that, but that person said that data is today's oil. So in the 50s and 60s, we had oil, yeah, and countries were rich. Now data is replacing that, yeah, and today's oil is data, yeah. And I mean, I was reading a recent article on BBC about how little power stations are creeping up all over the US that are doing Bitcoin mining because of the large amount of power that it requires. These little power stations are creeping up all over the place. And what they do is they do Bitcoin mining. Again, working with data. So a number of warnings, yeah, in terms of hallucinations, a number also of warnings in terms of the pocket, right, with LRM. But we cannot ignore it. And in terms of project delivery and control and AI, things are not, I mean, they're not recent. I mean, that is a system setup, a drawing actually, a setup for UK Power Network, where we started a massive transformation and have integrated all the software tools that were used for delivering projects and programs for UK Power Network. So core is obviously Primavera because we were using Primavera. It was there before when I arrived. But then we brought in tools like Unifier, which is an Oracle-based tool that does cost and contract management, and also another very interesting tool called CostOS, which does estimating. So integrating the three tools, software tools, right, using the standard structures, WBS, CBS, OBS, RBS, risk breakdown structure, yeah, to bring together all the data in the organization so we are ready then for the next move. Yeah, AI and the project control processes. So looking at, and you can see at the bottom examples that are brought in. I know because I was a judge in the Project Control Academy awards. So in terms of planning and scheduling, AI can optimize schedules, predict delays, and ensure efficient tasks and sequencing. And Alice Pro, Alice Core, Primavera, and Nplan are already doing that. They are specific AI tools for delivery of projects, right? If we look at cost management, AI again can improve estimation, right? Cogram is a tool that you can use to do request for pricing. SAP have their own, or Oracle NSuite. So they do predictive modeling, yeah? Real-time monitoring when the data comes in. Same thing for, and again, as I said, we'll see an example in Nplan's tool categories. That's how they're doing now in terms of creating new schedules. So in terms of the how AI works in practice, it relies, as we saw, on structured data and unstructured data. So the system the slide that I showed you earlier with the integrated systems enables much easier than, the data inputs. And you saw the list of actions that are required from that Paul Boudreau described. Then you train the machine learning models, on historical data, which if you're an organization that holds this data, construction or a client organization, you hold this data, to improve your estimating. Then you integrate. If you integrate that, and you saw that because in the diagram that I was saying gone too far here, the whole system was integrated, linked back to SAP, which is the enterprise resource planning tool. so via an API. And then you have the feedback loops. So AI refines its predictions and recommendations based on user input and project outcomes. Yeah, but the more specific your user input are and project outcomes for your organization, the easier the help. The human loop is closed by you being there, yeah, checking that the feedback loop. In terms of structures, the AI can use work breakdown structures, or OBS, CBS, and everything else to integrate and leverage the data that you have in your organization. So, and they help because they are hierarchical structures. Yeah, but organize your scope, your resources, your costs. Yeah, so that with that AI can increase the utility, right, by automating processes. Yeah. Looking at WBS, and again, very quickly, automated WBS creation. We'll see that in the end plan example that I have for you at the end, right? It creates, you give it a brief, and it creates your WBS because it has been trained on your data. Yeah. It indicates the task dependency. And easier then you can a lot easier than do progress monitoring and predictive scheduling. And again, highlighting here what the tools were, yeah, Alice Pro, Primavera P6. And as I said, M-Plan's Schedule Studio allows you to build from scratch a schedule, right? Presenting all the details, including the WBS. Looking at the OBS, similar thing, right? Procore helps with that specific tool, right? But you can improve resource optimization, assignment and optimization, right? Workload balancing. I mean, you're asking a tool that works much faster than us, right? To do that, when you have already your logically linked schedule, you assign the resources, whatever they are, LMCOP, labor plan, material, other, yeah, and it does that for you. So, and then you all project practitioners can do things, check and say, that is appropriate, that is not appropriate, I need to make that change, which I've highlighted here, right? You get more efficiency, yeah, out of automating repetitive tasks. You have much more improved accuracy, reducing the errors. There is more proactivity. Yeah, you're anticipating errors. Scalability, you manage complex projects with independent structures. So by embedding in blue, what I said there, by embedding artificial intelligence into your WBS and your other structures, yeah, as well as the processes, then project control becomes more dynamic, data-driven, and responsive. And you have the human in the loop to check what is happening. Yeah. Now, the human in the loop, and I'm going to talk, I said earlier about Andy Jordan's article in projectmanagement.com, which was 28th of April last month. Andy described, what is an agentic AI, which is AI-powered applications, right? That you can ask them to do things for you. So recognize trends, yeah, in reports, or adjust a schedule to minimize impact, yeah. And then Andy, like I'm saying, you need the human in the loop. But, and here's the thought, what if when the output comes, yeah, the agent, the AI agent, right, is part of a blockchain. So it does the analysis, right? It loads it in a block. It comes up to you as a human being to approve or reject, yeah? And therefore, an agent in the blockchain is an actor, yeah? That enables you, instead of you waiting, right, it drops you a note. Yeah, blockchain drops you a note very fast, yeah? And you consider that very fast. So you attach, so if you think of a blockchain, right, and you can attach agents in blocks that load information for you to approve, we have the latest technological implementation of blockchain and AI in one environment. So, and there are a number of organizations now that incorporate agents in their function. So what I wanted to show you now, I think I should be able to, if I stop sharing now and go, I need to bring up the internet, because the next slide is a soft link. But the only way I can do that is if I stop sharing and come back.
Yeah, of course.
Actually, I need to find out. Okay, I need to go into sorry, if you give me a second, I need to.
Yeah, take your time.
Okay, and that slide. So great. Okay, let me go, because I had the link already open, and if I go to that.
Here's the thing about construction schedules. They're time-consuming, complex, and expensive to build. Experienced schedulers are hard to hire, and those you do have are spending too much time on scheduled grunt work. Here at Nplan, we believe scheduling shouldn't be this hard.
Can you see that?
That's why we
Yes.
built Schedule Studio. Generate and edit detailed schedules using an AI trained on 750,000 real project plans. Go from scope to detailed schedule in minutes. Prompt the AI by pasting a description of your project. And uploading project documents like RFPs. You get to review the assumptions our AI has made about your scope. And refine your WBS before proceeding to detailed schedule generation.
As we're saying, the human in the loop.
Review your AI-generated schedule in a clean, logic-linked Gantt view. Edit your scope with additional natural language prompts. And export your generated transform the way you schedule for tendering, designing, contracting, delivery, and more. Stop building V1 of every schedule the hard way, and turn every member of your team into a seasoned scheduler overnight. Get started today at schedulestudio.ai.
So, that was, if you hear the, sorry, Aina, you can hear me, yeah? So I can stop sharing and go back to my slides. No, I need to do that first, something else. So that was, if you heard at the beginning, it was saying that they trained the scheduling tool with 750,000 schedules. Right, so I know that Nplan now are using QSRA, quantitative risk analysis technique, on the 10 billion program of works that we have in, sorry, can you see my screen? Okay, 10 billion program, they're doing QSRA, because again, they have a separate individualist tool to do risk QSRA, and they implement that for the organization using their own risk, train it, right? So we're going down to tools that are developed for the organization, for specific processes, and then introduced by the organizations and trained in their own data. Therefore, the human in the loop then is understanding the industry, can help with the data, because most likely they created the data, right, to be introduced. And it becomes a lot easier and more efficient as a process. Yeah. So a couple of thoughts at the end, because we'll be reaching the end of the presentation. There's an interesting graph I found that says Roy Amara's law. It says we tend to overestimate the effect of a technology in the short run and underestimate the effect in the long-term run. And we see that here. I think we're somewhere here, up here, in the early times with AI. I expect there's going to be a massive trough of disillusionment coming up, right? Especially maybe it's the cost, maybe it's the amount of work that organizations need to do to shape up the data and cleanse them, right? And the effort that needs to be put. And then slowly going up the slope of alignment, right? And then the plateau of productivity. So right now we are chasing quick adoption without building institutional learning. And that's my worry, that we need to be a lot more careful, need to be aware, like my students, right, on hallucinations, biases that the systems have, and lack of reasoning, which was I mentioned earlier with Professor Mitchell's work. And basically there was an article from Ricardo Viana Vargas in the Brazilian Congress of Project Management early in the year that says, don't wait. And we cannot wait. We need to start now, looking around, looking and finding out what is happening. Identify your most frequent tasks and select candidates for AI, right? Implement AI in the tasks you've chosen. So be specific and be careful. Think ahead, right? Figure out what you do today that AI will do tomorrow. Expand your role into new types of projects. Understand, internalize, and prepare for change, which is important for us human beings, right? Don't like change. Combine technical expertise with exceptional human skills. Be resilient, and we need to test, we need to fail, we need to adjust, and we need to repeat that loop, right? Because to do it, because that's how we also train the AI tools that we're going to get. And then we need to adapt, and we need to manage our fear. And that is the personal fear and the team's fear. So some interesting points from Viana Vargas. Yeah, and basically is we need to work with the technology, but we need to know its limitations and what we got to do to improve the output for our organization. Oops, gone too far. And that was the presentation, Aina.
Thank you so much, Dr. Dimitris. I have many thoughts about that, but we are kind of like running out of time. So we have a few people listening to us, but they're not in the main room because some of them are driving, some of them are in the office.
Yep.
And we have Ludovico in the main room. And Ludovico, I don't want to put you on a spot, but if you have any questions to Dr. Dimitris or myself, feel free to unmute yourself and just raise what you have.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Dimitris. Thank you, Aina, for this insightful webinar. I have a few questions. I'd like to list all of them, and then feel free to pick one, the one you prefer or whatever. The first part, I remember a slide about tangible benefits. Just a quick clarification. How did you calculate the percentage of the benefits? If it was kind of approach, I remember between 2 or 4%, but I'd like to know more about the approach.
The benefits to, if I go back, can you tell me which slide?
It was at the beginning of the presentation.
About the tangible benefits. Yes.
Oh, these ones.
Yeah, I'd like to hear more. How did you build, actually?
Right, that was based on what we presented, right? The whole process, that process. Yes.
Yeah.
And I mean, there is a lot more behind, because what we were doing with all the parties, because there were 6, 7 parties around us, you can see here, right? We were monitoring the timing. How long does it take to transfer the information, the timing that it took the individual to approve, yeah, and push forward the purchase order. So the savings of time, and this is what we were presenting, right? And you can see here, small percentages, right? Remove paper. Can you see that? Sorry, I know it's too small, but
No,
it says
yeah,
remove
I can
paper.
see.
Yeah.
We can
Thanks.
see.
So for every one we estimated, we looked at how fast the actions were performed, yeah, and then we identified the percentage, and that was agreed also with the client, yeah. So it wasn't just us, the team, saying, right, with the proof of concept, this is what we think. So 1% reduction of paper, and we're talking about, subject matter experts of supply chain logistic capability, 0.1%, again, from what they're doing, yeah. Increased cash flow certainty, yeah, 0.5. So we had agreed these through the timing and then with the client, and definitely what is happening, yeah.
Okay,
Ludovic,
thanks.
can you hear me?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I was listening, and okay, so it's an estimation of time saving.
Yeah,
It's
through
very
the blockchain, yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
when you mentioned the AI agent, so I would skip to the second part of the presentation. Are those agents based on LRM or
No,
LLM?
all the agents, as far as even as far as Andy Jordan, they're all based on LLMs at the moment.
Okay, all based
Uh,
LLM. Okay.
Yeah, I'll tell you why. I mean, as I said, the to establish the LRMs, it's much more expensive. It requires a lot more power, and that's why the fee is, according to Professor Mitchell, right, is $200 per month, because of the power that it requires, right, to use a specific. And she goes into the detail on what type of, this where are we? Type of techniques are used here, right? Because of the power required to perform the appropriate technique, right? The cost is going up. But at the moment, and as far as I know, agentic AIs are using LLMs.
Okay, thank you. And the very last one is about the complementary of blockchain use and AI. Do you actually know
Yes.
any existing application of blockchain plus AI?
No, and I did respond to Andy Jordan, and I said, what if we could do that? I haven't heard from anyone in the PMI link, because the article, you can comment on that article. So I've added my comment, but I haven't heard from anybody yet. But I have not heard, combining agentic AI and blockchain. But I think is the next step, right? Because if we can combine agents that go out and collect reports, right, and collect data, right? If you imagine, and let's even think that, don't think that just of the project management organization, right? Think of a financial organization. You have an agent going out there and establishing, bringing in a lot of data. Now, instead of having a human, right, accepting that data, put it on the blockchain. Therefore, it arrives on the blockchain and as a block, it comes to you as a person, right? And then through the blockchain, you check, reject, send it back. An agent does again the process that is required to do. Or I mean, in the if I think of an example, right, in the project delivery side, yeah, imagine you have an agent that trawls through all your schedules. And I mean, in the UK Power Network, we were delivering about 400 to 600 projects a year, size from, I don't know, 50,000 to on average, the average size of projects was about 2.5 million to 4 million, right? So imagine now going back for a number of years, yeah, and you're looking for a schedule for substations. So you have your agent, right, trawling through your P6 schedules, picking up all your substation schedules, right, on a blockchain, loading up the revised schedule and telling you this is what it is. Do you approve or not? Speed, yeah, and everything else. And I think it could be the next step. But I haven't heard, Ludovic, or anyone putting that forward.
Okay, very interesting. Actually, this was my question. I see the powerful and all of the potential that this application has. Actually, something really interesting. And thank you once again. So
That's all right, Ludwig. And for everyone else, I mean, what my attitude to everything is I want to see things integrated. I've been in the industry for 40 years and I've seen colleagues using Excel in their own backyard, right? Not giving you information, or then they go disappear, and then you're saying, well, how did we come up with this estimate? Oh, you know what? It was on Joe Blogg's estimate spreadsheet and we never got it. For me, we need to be integrating our data. We have all the techniques and the tools to do that. But there's still people out there that are using Excel to draw, to color boxes and draw schedules, right, in the 21st century. So what we need to do is, as Diana Varga says here, right, manage our fear. Allow the tools to help us to do the stuff that they've been doing for decades. And then integrate that using the standard structures. Yeah.
sure, absolutely. Actually, the inertia of a change is one of the most challenging.
Definitely. But
Yeah.
as I say to my students, right, because I do ask them to work with AI, but don't overdo it, right? I said to them, you need to ride the wave, yeah, to surf on the wave, not taken into the wave, and then you crash, right? So we need to surf that AI wave.
I apologize. I have a question message to me directly, exactly about managing our fears, and start doing it right now. So, like people from the audience, they're project managers and they're ready to start, but their bosses and VPs unfortunately cannot manage their fear yet, especially like having these examples about hallucinations, like how many sisters, or like that example from a PMI when there are like many questions regarding everything wrong. So how to convince like your bosses to manage your fear and start doing it?
I mean, it would be case study by case study, right? You will have to look what I've managed to do through a specific tool, right? But you have to double check what the tool is giving you, right? Let's look at the power of writing. Yes, everybody, I struggle. I've got a PhD and I always struggle with writing, right? You give it an idea, you give the LRM, whatever it is, right? ChatGPT, Gemini, whatever, right? You give it an idea, it says, I want a report and these are my data. Yeah. And it creates a report for you. And then you start. So instead of starting from scratch, right, you have a tool to help you put a report around what went wrong with your project, right? Instead of scratching your head for hours and saying, oh, where do I start from? You get the AI tool to help you start that. And then when the boss comes back and says, that was quick, I said, well, you know what? I used ChatGPT and he helped me do that. So you break slowly these barriers, right? By saying, well, if we do that, we can establish this, right? So we break barriers slowly. The example I showed you with, I was very, very reluctant with AI tools and scheduling until I follow on blogs Nplan and Maven and Nodes and Links. So I thought I'll have a look at what Nplan are doing, because you know I like using scheduling tools, and I like always having logic links and cost-loaded schedules. So I thought, oh, what rubbish am I going to see now? But by loading the business case, right, and the scope, etc., the tool creates a WBS, and then you can fix it. These are the things that you can do, right? And actually, the particular case of Nplan, yeah, and the Schedule Studio is free. So you can start playing with the free things and then convince your managers and your directors saying, look how we can do it. Yeah. It saved me 3 hours. It saved me 1 hour, right? It helped me and the project controller to quickly develop a schedule. Yeah. And definitely like Ludovico's question, right? In terms of how did we prove that the tangible benefits? It was, well, if you think about how much a project manager costs in hours, right? Saving of an hour, it's X amount of pounds or dollars or whatever. So you tell your boss, look, I used ChatGPT and saved myself 1 hour to do other stuff. That's times the directors and everybody thinks ching, ching, ching dollars going down. Oh, okay. So if we have all the project managers trained to write reports, right? Bang, I got, I don't know, $10,000 a month. Yeah. So slowly taking the steps, us as individuals, checking always what is happening. Yeah. And breaking these and making the change happen.
Thank you, Dr. Dimitris. And I have the final comment because we are already over time regarding your previous slide about coming up using the AI, probably one more before. Yes, this one with people related expectations and then going down to the disillusionment or like disappointment. So this really reminds me the Dunning-Kruger effect when we are top of the mountain of, I would use the word stupidity. And then after that, unfortunately, we are like falling down in realization. Actually, we are not that smart as we thought about ourselves. So I see like the same trend here with AI. What I like saying, only who is not lazy is not talking about AI right now. But do we have the proficiency? And what you keep saying, did we build this institutional learning? Or are we just practicing? Are we just writing prompts without keeping humans in the loop, like the my example? Did somebody verify that example before like posting it to the presentation? Probably not. And that's why I anticipate this like fall to the disillusionment in the near future. But maybe to avoid us falling like that deep, we need to start verifying right now. We need to keep humans in the loop. We need to communicate with AI.
Definitely.
We need to verify with AI and definitely verify the speakers and the knowledge they provide, and just keep building this institutional learning right now, not just using AI right now, but to build the institutional learning so we can get sooner to this plateau of productivity.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, all the curves are, similar with, excitement, and then you drop and then you learn and then, but I mean, the point and that's why I've highlighted it, is that organizations, right, need to do that, build the institutional learning. The reason I presented the knowledge building, right, this slide, it was that in previous organizations, everybody was doing, and everybody says, oh, lessons learned and lessons learned, and nobody was doing the process. And when I arrived at UK Power Network, I was, I decided 200% that we're going to use the process and we're going to learn. And we set it up in P6, which meant that the team had access. Therefore, they could add the comment. Therefore, we could capture the moment of the month, right? The comment of the month. Not wait to the end of the project and everybody forgot what happened in the last 24, right? So building that knowledge gradually and monthly, and not, as I said, wait to the end of it. So that's how you build institutional learning. And not saying, oh, you know what, we have to do lessons learned. Oh, nobody bothers, nobody comes to the meeting. And then the project manager tries to remember. So get the team, right, to build that. And therefore, when he's coded, then you can easily ask an LLM tool to troll through, I don't know, all bridge building projects that you've done and say, right, where was the problem? What happened in the commercial side, design side? And you get that, and then you help the LLM give you a better risk register. So that's the point. That's why this point here, and I highlighted it. Oops, I'm going back, I think. Build institutional learning, and definitely the human in the loop. We will make that point much shallower, right? The trough of disillusionment, we'll make it much shallower because we know we've done it in the past. We know we coded it. We know we can use it.
Thank you so much again, Dr. Dimitris, and thank you, Ludovico, for being brave and asking the questions. And thank you, everybody else who were listening to us right now. And have a great day, everybody. Again, thank you, Dr. Dimitris. And
thanks, Aina. Thanks, Ludovico. Thanks, everyone.
and for everyone, the next session is going to be on June 8th about AI in procurement. So looking forward to see you all. Thank you.
There you go. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye, Aina.